My name is Danielle Michael-Jeske. I am the first place winner from 2022 last year. Thank you. And I am in the Davis College.
Hi, everyone. I am Janelle Chua, and I was the first place winner for 2021. Yes, 2021. And I'm from the School of Medicine.
So before we begin, I would like to give you a brief history on the competition and its importance. The 3-minute thesis is an academic research communication competition. It was developed by the University of Queensland, Australia, for graduate students. This competition challenges graduate students to present their research topic and its significance in 3 minutes and using just one static PowerPoint slide. The 3-minute thesis competition develops academic presentation and research communication skills, as well as supports the development of graduate students' capacity to succinctly communicate their research to a non-specialist audience. For more information, you can go to the 3-minute thesis website. And with that, we will introduce our judging panel.
Tonight's panel consists of 5 judges. Moving from your right to your left, we have Elbert Burby from the Health Sciences Center. We have Duncan Lorimer from the Eberly College of Arts and Sciences. Oh, that was not right. We have Nancy Coronia from the Department of English and Cultural Studies. Okay, from here on, it'll be correct. We have Nicole Mihalik from the School of Medicine. And last but not least, we have Michaela Myers from College of Creative Arts. Tonight, we'll have 8 participants who each only have 3 minutes and 1 static slide to talk about their research. We hope you would enjoy these presentations as much as we do. At this time, we'd like to start with our first presentation by Emily Francis. The title is Creating a Home That Takes Care of You.
If you help take care of a loved one, you know it can be really hard sometimes. Without a good support system, it can lead to burnout, which is something that around 40 to 70% of informal caregivers struggle with. More people are hiring home care aides, but at the median national salary of around $30,000, they're difficult for the average or lower income families to afford. To help you take care of your loved ones, the WVU Rania Lab is creating the Residence Aware Network for Intelligent Assistance, a high-tech, affordable home care system. I'm developing the Ambient Intelligent LiDAR, or AMIL framework, for the Rania system. Current LiDAR-based home care systems focus on activity recognition, gait monitoring, and fall detection. While many are successful, they're limited. They don't consider operating in multiple rooms at once, differentiating between multiple people, utilizing a variety of sensors, or fulfilling a typical smart home model. AMIL aims to fulfill these 4 functions in a way that is effortless for the resident. To do this, AMIL has 4 main components: LiDAR sensors, devices created by the students we work with, a Rania hub, and a virtual assistant. The LiDAR sensors register the residents' movements throughout the day and send that data to the Rania hub. The hub can then make decisions and plans of action based on that data. For example, sending a command to a certain device or contacting a caregiver. Take mom and dad here, for example. As they go about their day in the Rania home using the Emil system, they get up, they go to eat breakfast, and then go to the living room to watch TV. But they left the stove on. The Emil framework will recognize that the stove is on, but no one's attending it, and can then alert them through the virtual assistant. Now, when dad gets up to fix that, maybe he falls. That event is logged in the system and shared with a caregiver. These are some of the expected outcomes for the Rania home and the Emil framework. With this system, we hope to create an affordable home that takes care of you. Thank you.
Great first presentation and a great way to start tonight's competition. Our next presentation is by Mohammed. His title is Spillover Effects from Public Health Policies, and he is currently in the Davis College of Agriculture.
Since 2020, more than 100 million Americans have been infected by COVID-19, and at least 1 million people died from this disease in the United States. Do you remember when public health officials advised us to shelter at home or wear masks to protect ourselves from being infected? Do you know how much each COVID-19 patient paid for hospitalization? In the United States, each COVID-19 patient paid on average $41,000 for hospitalization. Today, I will talk about spillover effects of public health policies on COVID-19 spread in the United States. In my research, I applied spatial econometric models to show how public health policies in one county influence COVID-19 cases in neighboring counties, though neighboring counties have not implemented these policies. Based upon annual county level data for the period of 2020, I found that county level stay-at-home orders and mask mandates in one county significantly reduced COVID-19 cases in neighboring counties. On average, implementing both these policies for one additional week in one county reduced 65 cases per 100,000 people in neighboring counties. These spillover effects of health policies is 16 times larger than the effects in the county where these policies were put in place. For example, I calculated the spillover benefits of public mask mandate in Spokane County in the state of Washington to its 3 neighboring counties in Idaho, a non-mask mandate state. Each month, we can gain $90 million from neighboring counties in Idaho. Why is this research important? Public health policy brings benefits not only to the compliant county, but also to the non-compliant neighboring counties. While many studies underestimated the actual benefits of public health policies as they considered only compliant counties, my study indicated greater monetary benefits from non-compliant neighboring counties. Since people of color are disproportionately infected by COVID-19 in the neighboring counties, we should ensure racial justice through careful implementation of these policies. Finally, policymakers can design cost-efficient interventions to tackle future pandemics based on this research. Thank you.
Another great presentation, and we're so excited to see what the rest of our participants have to offer tonight. Our next presentation is by Rudy Safarudin. The title of his talk is Opioid Use Trajectories Before and After Cancer. Do one-size-fits-all opioid policies fit? He's coming from the School of Pharmacy.
I'm sure you know someone who suffered from chronic pain conditions who's been prescribed strong painkillers, like opioids. Ideally, opioids should only be prescribed for a short period of time, as recommended by the CDC guidelines. Unfortunately, opioid use in certain groups is consistently high for a long period of time. Evidence shows that 44 people die every day from prescription opioid overdose in the US. And opioid-related deaths have increased 28% since 2015 nationwide. Scientists realized that persistent opioid use could be triggered by physiological, psychological, and other factors such as socioeconomic status and healthcare access. However, not much research has been done to examine the relationship between the opioid use and these other factors. Since elderly population is so prone to chronic pain conditions, they're the most vulnerable age group to opioid use. In addition, if these older adults also had cancer, then they might require higher doses of opioids. My study aimed to identify the opioid use trajectories before and after cancer among older adults with chronic pain condition and cancer. If a persistent opioid use trajectory existed, we'd identify the factors associated with it. I hypothesized that there were distinct opioid trajectories in the population, and individuals who were poor and living in rural areas would be more likely to have a persistent opioid use trajectory. I utilized a national data set of more than 35,000 older adults who were diagnosed with different types of cancer. To identify the distinct trajectories, we analyzed the opioid use 1 year before and 2 years after cancer diagnosis. We found 4 distinct opioid trajectories in the population. Overall, 1 in 8 older adults had a persistent opioid overuse, had a persistent opioid use over time. For clinical urgency reason, we further investigated the persistent opioid users. Poverty, residential rurality, and anxiety are the factors associated with persistent opioid overuse. This study clinically implies that one-size-fits-all opioid policies may not fit in reducing chronic opioid use. And policymakers should consider the individual's variabilities when making policy decisions in reducing the risk of abuse and overdose deaths related to opioids. Thank you so much.
We are very excited to also introduce the next talk by Sindupa de Silva. And his talk is Human Land Use Practices and Their Impacts on Nature's Kidneys. He's coming from the Davis College of Agriculture.
771 million people around the world do not have access to clean water. One of the reasons for this is how expensive water treatment and purification can be. But nature has its own way of cleaning water, and that is through its kidneys, also known as wetlands. Wetlands are a type of ecosystem. Think of bogs, marshes, and swamps. These ecosystems intercept water from surface runoff and floods to then sequester and store excess sediments, nutrients, and pollutants, and then slowly release cleaner water into our lakes, rivers, oceans, and even underground aquifers. But just like our kidneys, if a wetlands ecosystem health is compromised, so will its ability to provide clean freshwater resources that both humans and wildlife depend upon. Despite their invaluable benefits, wetland ecosystems are still not comprehensively protected to this day globally. One of the reasons for this is our limited understanding of how human land use practices impact wetland ecosystem health. So, to help fill this gap of information, we studied the water quality of 200 wetlands across the state of West Virginia. We did this by collecting a representative water sample from each wetland, then treating and testing it for over 20 different water quality variables. We then used geographic information systems, or GIS software, to extract the ongoing human land use practices that occurred on the landscapes that drain into each of our wetlands. Using this data, we performed statistical analyses to evaluate the relationships between human land use practices and the wetland water quality that we measured. From our preliminary analyses, we observed that as different types and total area of human land use practices increases, the wetlands water quality decreases. This is a good indicator of the fact that human land use practices do have an influence on wetland ecosystem health. While there's still a lot of work to be done, this project will help produce wetland water quality standards for the state of West Virginia and help advance more comprehensive protections for wetland ecosystems. In doing so, help protect nature's kidneys and the availability of clean water. Thank you.
All right, we are halfway through. Our next speaker is Vanilla Vasam, and she is going to talk about, I can't see, the contribution of microbial extracellular polymeric substances in the formation of disinfectant byproducts under varied flow conditions. And she is in the Civil and Environmental Engineering program.
Do you think the water you drink is free from all bacteria? My research demonstrates the answer is no. Water after treating is supplied to public through a pipe network known as drinking water distribution system. Water contamination may occur due to several reasons such as water treatment failures, pipe breakages, and other flow conditions. A layer of microorganisms and other bacteria grow on the surface of this distribution system. These microorganisms will produce a gel-like substance that will help them to protect themselves, hold nutrients, and helps them to stick to the surface of the pipe. This gel-like substance is known as extracellular polymeric substance, EPS. The microorganisms, nutrients, and the gel-like substance combinedly is known as a biofilm. This environment creates a protective home for harmful bacteria to grow, and thereby this helps in the major outbreaks and other waterborne diseases which occur in any distribution system. Water before being supplied to public, chlorine is added to water to kill any harmful bacteria that may regrow in the distribution system. This chlorine will react with the EPS, resulting in the formation of harmful cancer-causing agents known as disinfectant byproducts. There are a variety of flow conditions that will be occurring in any distribution system. So in my study, I will investigate the effect of flow conditions in the formation of EPS and effects of flow conditions in the formation of disinfectant byproducts. For this, I have considered a microorganism which is readily available in any drinking water distribution system. For this, I am culturing biofilms in the reactors in the lab under controlled temperature. As of now, I have seen the growth of microorganisms in the reactor under controlled temperature and pH, and these are maintained under different flow conditions such as low flow, medium flow, and high flow condition. So I have to further investigate the effect of flow conditions on the formation of disinfectant byproducts and formation of EPS. Although Environmental Protection Agency have stringent laws to maintain the water regulations, outbreaks do occur, making water possibly unsafe to drink. My study demonstrates the maintenance of optimum flow conditions in the water and also helps to develop the control methods to control the development of biofilms in the drinking water system, ensuring water safety. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Qazi Rahman, and his research title is Reimagining Identities, and he comes from the English program in the College of Arts and Sciences.
Let's say you're reading or watching Hillbilly Elegies on Netflix, and you're wondering, what does it say about Appalachia, and by extension, the United States of America? Well, I have wondered the same thing, and I'm trying to find an answer to that question through my work. The mosaic of colors on the map is South Asia, having 2 billion people, 1/4 of the world's population, and some of them are presenting here today. I hail from that red patch, the country of Bangladesh, which is slightly bigger than West Virginia, but having nearly half the population of the United States. Indeed, it is one of the most densely populated country in the world. Now, so far, South Asian literary studies have focused on literature from other countries of the subcontinent. Bangladeshi literature in both English and Bangla, the native language, have rarely been included in any discussions related to nation, nationality, and identity politics. My research looks into Bangladeshi literature's contribution in 4 parts, as represented by the 4 circles. In part 1, I've already found how Bangladeshi Bangla fiction have been instrumental in creating a national identity for Bangladesh following the country's independence in 1971. In part 2, I look into narratives that have been overlooked by Bangla fiction and see what Bangladeshi English fictions have to contribute to this conversation. In part 3, I investigate the politics of language and how it's tied to the underrepresentation of Bangladeshi literature in the global literary marketplace. South Asian English fictions are highly valuable commodities, sought by the publishing industry, and prizes like the Booker and the Nobel. So it's important to understand the process of literary production. In part 4, I use digital humanities to raise awareness of global English literature and see how digital tools can be effectively used to increase awareness about non-English literature. Now, why is this issue important and why should we care? There is always a conscious and necessary effort to define who we are. Think about the motto that is part of our identity here, Montani Semper Liberi. Mountaineers are always free. Stories play a pivotal role in developing such ideas, which in turn have a humongous effect in all kinds of policies. But what kind of stories are being told? What kind of stories are being circulated about West Virginia? I'm trying to understand this important process of substantial social impact using literature and digital tools. Understanding this will help us to create a world which is inclusive of all races, ethnicities, nationalities, gender, and sexual orientations. Thank you.
Our next 3M tier is Johan Cuervo, and his research title is Soil Porosity, the Soil Circulatory System. And he hails from the Plant and Soil Sciences Department in the Davis College of Agriculture.
I'd like for you to think about your favorite food. Where did it come from? Giant Eagle? Walmart? Mexico? You don't need to answer. I already know where it comes from. The soil. Walking down the aisle of the supermarket, you probably noticed that prices have been going up. Everyone is talking about inflation, but there is another factor that does not get as much attention. It is soil degradation. According to the Food and Agricultural Organization, all around the world, more than 20% of soils are degraded. More worrisome is the projection that by 2050, more than 90% of productive land could be degraded. If agricultural production is not sustainable, prices will rise. And things like your 4th of July barbecue budget would be so expensive that I might just go vegan. If you can afford the veggies, of course. Let's face it, healthy soils mean productive soils. And there are ways we can measure how healthy a soil is. But this concept is so broad that it's very difficult to reach proper conclusions. That is why I'm interested in linking soil health with the effect of land management on soil properties, especially those related to water cycling. The focus of my dissertation is to assess soil health via soil porosity, the veins and arteries of the soil. My hypothesis is that water dynamics and soil pore size distribution would help us to assess soil health and will improve the prediction of soil degradation. Testing my thesis, I compared 2 systems in West Virginia: high tunnels that are prone to degradation due to salinity, and grasslands that are susceptible to compaction. In both scenarios, I measured soil porosity, soil density, organic matter, and other soil health indicators. Then I selected and tested the ones that gave us more information about how those systems affected the soils. Preliminary results suggest some trends in indicators like soil structure and its capacity to predict soil degradation. My final goal is to integrate water dynamics and soil porosity to predict how soils will behave in the future. This will enable us to take action and avoid possible negative consequences and maintain, even increase, soil health. Thank you.
We are already down to our last speaker. Our last speaker is Kahlo Sokoto, and her research title is Racism in Dental Settings, Implications on Dental Anxiety and Utilization. And she comes from the College of Applied Human Sciences.
When he's not telling jokes, Chris Rock tells a story about his mother, Rosalind Rock. Born in 1945, Rosalind Rock would go to a vet to get her tooth pulled out because Black people were not allowed to go to the dentist. In Chris Rock's words, racism isn't dignifying. Today, 1 in 5 adults in America have experienced discrimination while receiving healthcare services. Even though racism is the most reported type of discrimination in healthcare settings, little is known about its impact on dental outcomes. There is no prior research on racism in dental settings. As such, through the Center for Oral Health Research in Appalachia, my dissertation looks at racism in dental settings and its potential impact on dental anxiety and dental visits. So we hypothesized that experiences in dental settings of racism would predict dental visits mediated by dental anxiety. Everyday racism, which is a construct we measured, was defined as the race-based unfair interactions embedded within institutions. Examples of items from the everyday racism scale included, have you felt like a dental provider was not listening to you? And have you felt like a dental provider was afraid of you? 268 Black identifying women that reside in West Virginia and Pittsburgh participated in our study by completing the everyday racism scale, a dental fear survey, and 1 dental visit question. What we found was that over 1/3 of the women have experienced racism in dental settings. Most women reported they did not feel like the dental provider was listening to what they were saying. They felt like they were treated with less respect compared to other people, and they felt like they were given poorer services than other people. We also found a significant relationship between racism in dental settings and dental anxiety. Dental anxiety also predicted significantly frequency of dental visits. And finally, experiences of racism in dental settings together with dental anxiety predicted dental visits. Our findings suggest that the psychological impact of experiences of racism in dental settings is a potential barrier to dental visits. Clinically, assessing for and addressing past experiences of racism in dental settings may reduce dental anxiety and in turn increase dental visits among Black women. We hope that our findings will inform anti-racist policies in oral healthcare. Thank you.
Can we please get another round of applause for all of our presenters? So at this time in the back of the room, there is the People's Choice vote. So whoever you thought did the best this evening, please go write their name down on a ballot and please stick it in the bucket in the back. Someone will go count them and whoever wins gets some money. So you guys have about like 5-10 minutes to do that. And once we've kind of seen that everyone's back in their seat, we're going to continue on with the event.
It looks like we have wound down the people's choice voting. So I'm going to invite you, as the scores are being tabulated, to hang out with us for a little bit, have a seat, and get to hear in a non-time constrained format, well, within reason, we won't be here all night, but get to hear a little bit more from our participants. I actually think I'm going to give that to you. And then you all will share the mic and we'll pose a question and just whoever wants to respond. Okay. So to start, I'm hoping you all can share with everyone what made you decide to do this contest. And I think prizes is a fair answer, but would anyone like to talk about what made you want to participate in 3MT?
Should I start?
You can.
I think it was more like a challenge, like a practice to explain my research to other people. For example, my wife, my in-laws, because sometimes we go too complex and we feel more comfortable doing like talking with our colleagues or advisors. But sometimes when you take out of your research out of that field, you kind of like have troubles. So this was a perfect occasion just to practice that. And especially in 3 minutes, that's another challenge too. And one slide, yeah, even more.
Very good. Others?
I just wanted to add to that. Because it's like, if you're in academia, you know that like, if you're really passionate about what we do, which I'm sure we all are because we entered this competition, you know, those blank stares of just complete zoning out when you're going on and on about a topic, your dissertation topic. But so yeah, this was like really good practice.
I'm picturing everyone now just at the Thanksgiving table with like the slide behind them, just settling the matter once and for all. Anyone else? What other reasons you decided?
Yeah, so this was actually, I used to work as a graduate student consultant at the writing studio, and graduate students used to come to me with their thesis, dissertation. And it was really when they tried to explain their research to me, and then in turn asked, what do I work on? I always had trouble, having that conversation with somebody from mathematics. And they're trying to speak to me and I'm trying to speak to them was like a different language, although we're both speaking English. So by then, like somebody mentioned this one, I said like, hey, I'll try to explain what I do and go from there. We'll see. So that's that.
Yeah.
My reason for applying for this is because our study is part of the methodology is community-based participatory. And so what that comes with is a responsibility of finding ways of disseminating your findings aside from publishing articles and all the traditionally academic ways of discussing your findings. So because my research is based here in West Virginia, and we had it was a very minoritized group, I'm constantly looking for opportunities to talk about what we've done. Because that's part of the responsibility as a researcher working with minoritized groups and also within an area that is not often, talked about as much. I did not know that I had to memorize my 3-minute speech. So I was like, whoa, that was a big stretch for me, but I'm here.
That would be a surprise to find out. Yeah.
Before this event, I presented my research in front of academic people, mostly at the conference. And today, I presented my research in front of general public. And this year is the job search year for me. And most of the employers, they ask me, do you have experience to talk in front of general public? Yes, now I have evidence that I have evidence of speaking in front of general public.
Excellent.
So water is essential part of life. So water contamination is least known until something comes out or some kind of breakout comes out. So I wanted to present my study to create awareness, at least for my fellow students and the WVU community. So I want to create awareness among people by talking about the water contamination and the effects.
Wonderful. Sindupa?
So I'll be the first person to say the $1,000 was really, really appealing. as a graduate student, it's far more appealing. But I also, one of the biggest reasons I applied for this competition, and this is a issue with natural resource sciences, but I think it applies to other disciplines as well. But the communication gap between academia and the public sector. We do research. However, most of our publications and research is directly taken to legislature, whereas it's not fairly communicated well with the general public. And legislature creates things, policies that affect people. So as academics, I believe that we should be far better communicators that it's more accessible to anyone what we do. Therefore, we have, as general public members, more input on policies that get implemented. That being said, if I win this, I'm using this money to pay for a ticket to go back home the end of this summer. So.
Yeah, to me, first, public speaking, like I'm looking forward to, like expanding and training myself to speak in front of public. It's not easy. Second of all, like research content simplification, like us probably like we all think that like, or like our research is so fancy, this and that, but other people are, in other fields, they might not really, understand it. Lastly, with the opioid crisis going on, and I believe West Virginia is one of the, unfortunately, one of the states with that type of issue. Looking forward to basically disseminating the research. And again, just like Vanilla say, it's about increasing the awareness, and we need to be more aware of the painkiller, in this case, opioid use in the US or West Virginia specifically. Thank you.
Oh, thank you all for sharing that response. I think I think you have a lot in common, but it's nice to see the different motivation you all had for taking part. Along similar lines, and you've touched on some of this already, but what was the most challenging, maybe the single most challenging thing while you were getting ready? What was hardest?
Okay. So the technical terms which we use in our research or when we communicate with more our department people, it will be easy. But conveying the terms to a common people in common language, I found it really difficult. Like few words I used, I got it from like, it's like gel-like substance. I found it really funny, but yeah, that's the only way I can convey it to people. Yeah.
I think I'll remember gel-like substance though. So
Thank
good
you.
job.
I think for me, one of the biggest challenges was condensing information because, as I mentioned, my research covers 200 sites across the entire state of West Virginia. And it's not just water quality I looked at. We looked at so many different components, so many different variables, and I had to fit all of that into one slide and within 3 minutes. That probably over anything else was the most challenging part.
Pressure of the clock, absolutely.
So English is my second language. So for me, I think expressing some words with appropriate accents was the main challenge. Yeah.
Sure.
I would say the same. But I would say the slide was very difficult because you are working with this project for so many years that it's very obvious for you to skip some stuff. But when you present it to, for example, my wife, she was like, "What's that?" It's like, but that's very obvious, not for her. So trying to balance that, keep it simple, but at the same time, keep it like scientific. That was a challenge. And just one slide, like I said, it was really, really challenging.
I think even really practiced public speakers are used to being able to accent things by clicking to the next visual, and you just can't do that. You don't get that here. Please.
I think I mentioned mine. I think the memorizing was the hardest for me because I was telling Dr. May, I gave birth 5 months ago. I have a 5-month-old baby. And I really thank you. Hey, baby Chibit, if you're watching. So, what is it?
Sleeping through the night.
No.
New parents on the panel. Are they sleeping through the night?
No. Yeah, so I think, and I believe mommy brain is real as well. So that was really challenging for me. But like I said, I'm glad that I did it.
The most challenging, maybe flying from Texas. Yeah, so right now I'm residing in Houston, Texas, and then I flew in just for this competition because I really enjoy the learning process.
We're honored. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, for me, the most challenging thing was to finding relevance for the audience. Like I'm passionate about Bangladeshi literature, but the second part is, for example, what can I do so that it increases representation for others? And West Virginia and the East Coast in general have a huge South Asian population, and the population will only increase like in the coming days. And I think many of our policymakers don't still understand how to address people from different communities so that there is a good cohesion between different communities of different nationalities so they can live together. So that was part of the challenging thing for me.
I think I know some of the other contestants touched on this, but the condensing of your dissertation topic into 3 minutes, it's a little tough. It's a little challenging. And I know, especially with me when I was memorizing my script, and I had to go through it so many times and I would just mess up because I would be thinking of all the other things I wanted to include, but I just couldn't.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Good. Well, it's just so nice to hear from all of you about these things. So we've covered why you did it and what was hard about it. So our next question is, what are you going to take away? What have you learned from this process?
I'll start. This was just a really nice public speaking opportunity.
That
And
works.
that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, we're glad.
For me, I'm gonna take I had no idea like the kind of different stuff that is happening in other discipline. Okay, because like as we move towards our end of our degree in the 5th, 6th year, you're so ingrained in your own research, you sort of lose track on what are others doing. So that was really, really fun to see all the other presenters speak about their own research that they're passionate about.
I would say, like it has been mentioned before, but like how to convey the messages that would resonate with the audience. I still find it, challenging, but at the same time, that's going to be like big takeaway home, messages that I got. Thank you.
I think presenting research in front of general audience is really interesting.
Yeah, well, we know you're going to have it as a talking point now. So you've checked, got that on your list. That's great. Can we send a mic down this way? Thank you.
Thank you. Biggest takeaway for me, and actually I do not know where Dr. May is, but huge round of applause for Dr. May for coaching all of us. Super, super helpful. I've never gotten professional training or mentorship of any sort on public speaking, and I've given plenty of presentations at conferences. I learned way more preparing for this presentation than I had for any other previous academic conference. And a lot of those lessons I'll continue on. And I think all of us addressed it on this stage today, the fact that sometimes we do spend so much time doing our own research that we forget what it's like to understand and perceive our own research from someone else's eyes. And this has been a wonderful opportunity to do that, which hopefully will help us communicate our work to just general audiences as we progress in our careers.
For me, my takeaway will be, we all know that WVU is an R1, but this experience has really allowed me to get to see what's going on, what the R1 that's going on in different departments. And it's just given me another reason to value this institution and the kind of stuff that's going on. So I've really enjoyed learning about all the studies that have been presented today and connecting with my fellow colleagues. I feel like I'm going away with friends, new friends. I did not know anyone on this panel, and now we've all exchanged contacts, and I think that's a beautiful thing, especially as we are all going into the world. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Anyone else?
Yeah, for my myself. So I learned the public speaking. So with all the personal trainings from Dr. May. So they were really helpful.
We're gonna have to clap for Dr. May again when she comes back. Oh, you can do it now too. That's okay. Anyone else on this question? Something to add? Okay, I wanna move on to my last, and what I've already shared is my favorite question. I like to ask this. No pressure, guys. But if you would be so kind, what is something you wish people knew about what you do, or what they knew about your field of study? Like if you could really nail that point home for people, what would it be?
So as I shared, I study wetland ecosystems. And as I mentioned, wetland ecosystems are not protected on a global scale. If you look into the history of it, there's a lot of aspects connected to colonialism and racism, especially within the United States. And as we progress doing research, understanding these ecosystems and their benefits, we realize that they are just as valuable as Amazonian rainforests, or I can't go off the list, but other valuable ecosystems as well. So that's one thing that I would encourage you to do, is learn more about wetlands and appreciate whatever wetlands you have within the areas that you live in.
Yeah, I will add to that. So from my field point of view, I would say like today, it used to be like we tend to think that like the health outcomes are merely affected by medical related factors. In fact, it's not like that. Right now, there are so many frameworks out there, explaining that in addition to medical related factors, but also like there are so many other social, we call it social determinants of health, like, starting from education, income, those other like social variables do affect the health outcome. So we cannot really, ignore like other non-health related factors.
I would say that if you think that COVID was hard on us, just imagine losing 90% of the productive land. So the projections, I know they look very funky, but they're projections. So by 2050, 90% of the productive land could be just gone. I have a child, 1-year-old child. So maybe I'm not gonna be here around when that happens, but he will. So soils are basically food, right? So we need them. So we need to take care of them. We need to do something to have them here. So I would say that.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think we have time for a couple more responses. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it would be to make people understand, like, you are basically the sum of the stories you consume. And it's really important to understand how much of that affects your thoughts, your reaction, and your attitude to others. As we can see from the last couple of elections and all those talk about disinformation. And that's why, like, it's very important, like, what kind of things are getting out there, what kind of things are being promoted, and have an understanding regarding this is not the whole picture. So
absolutely. Maybe one more.
I think spillover effects is the most important thing that people should know, because most of the case people focus on the direct effects of policies or any kind of impacts, but any kind of indirect effects, like in my research, I estimate the spillover effects of mask mandate, for example. Think about 2 neighboring counties. I'm living county A and I'm wearing mask, like, yes. But the other person who is living neighboring counties, but they are not complying mask, they're not wearing mask. But still, they are getting benefits from me. They are safer, they are safe because I'm wearing mask. So that is the interesting thing that I think people should know that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to second something that Rudy mentioned. For me, it's so interesting to find how important people would like to be, how important it is for people in healthcare systems when you enter it. All of us have had to enter in the healthcare system as a patient in one way or another. And just being seen, you know, when a provider sees you. So there's a difference between just treats you as every day and sees you. And seeing you is being able to check in on how healthcare is going on for you. That's a question that's rarely asked. How have the services been, or how has your experience in healthcare been? And especially in minoritized communities, whether it's low income or race. And these are just little things that psychologists really emphasize, and how within healthcare is really assessing for past experiences in healthcare, because they have detrimental outcomes in relation to COVID, how people were, whether people or not were interested in getting the vaccine. It's all going back to relationships and how people have felt like they were treated and experiences that they've had. Yeah, so I think that's just something that psychologists in healthcare systems bring on board, and that we like to emphasize.
So my field of study is microbiology of water. So basically we study about different microorganisms in water streams, drinking water systems, in wastewater, in different water streams. So there are good microorganisms, bad microorganisms, which are really harmful and which do not cause any harm to any beings. So yeah, we usually study what kind of different species of microorganisms present in the water, how these microorganisms are helping in degradation of waste, in treatment of water, wastewater, and how these kind of study is going on. Yeah. Thanks.
Aren't they just lovely? Please, one more round of applause for everyone. It's a very difficult thing to do, and we're so grateful you were here to share your work with us tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn it over for the best part of the evening. Want them to stay?
Hello, everyone. I'm Betty May. I am also the coach for this event. Thank you. I enjoy working with these really talented people. And this is an excellent opportunity for me to hear what our doctoral students are doing throughout the university. So I really treasure this time every year when I work with them. So I'm asking to stay because we have certificates for all of you. And I'm going to invite our Associate Provost for Graduate Academic Affairs, Dr. Richard Thomas, to come up and present these. So the first one is Johan Cuervo. Sindupa de Silva. Emily Francis. Mohammed Syedul Islam. Qazi Arka Rahman. Rudy Savarudi. Paulo Sokoto. Vanilla Vasam. I hope, yeah, everybody stays. I hope you have enjoyed this evening as much as I have. It's always a fun and exciting evening for me. So we have the scores. So we are going to announce the third place winner, the 2023 WVU 3MT Grand Finale. Third place goes to Arka Rahman. We're going to stand a little. Okay. Second place goes to, do we have to check for second place? Okay. Johan Cuervo. And the 2023 WVU 3M2 winner is Sindupa de Silva. With one more, this is an exciting one too. The People's Choice Award goes to, you ready? Mohammed Syedul Islam. Yeah. Good. So stay behind, we're going to take a group picture later, but let me do a few acknowledgements. Congratulations to the winners once again. And to all the finalists for their hard work you put into this competition. Best wishes to you all, soon to be doctors who will be graduating or will be finishing up your dissertation in the next year. Putting an event together like this would not have been possible without the help of many individuals. I would like to take this opportunity to thank tonight's judges, the 3MT Steering Committee, our OGO staff, and GA, of course, okay. Our student volunteers, and last but not least, our MCs for this evening. Thank you for all your help to make this a successful and enjoyable evening. I invite you now to enjoy the refreshment at the reception in the next room. Thank you all for coming. So we'll take a group picture. So yeah, they should open that divider up. Yeah, yeah. Okay, good.